Everyone, welcome to Leaders Live. We're on the air. Good to have your company. I am David Cushnan.
And I'm Cameron McDonald. If you're with us live, thanks for joining us in. If you're listening to the podcast version, welcome to the show. Either way, good to have you with us.
In this edition of Leaders Live, we will be taking a look at the ultimate matchday experience.
That's right, David. And what does that experience look like? Does it have to be live, in person, and right in the action? Do you need an exhilarating halftime show? What do those in the know have to say about delivering the best experience for their fans? Let's
set the scene straight away. We spoke recently in Abu Dhabi at our Leaders Sport Business Summit there to the NBA's head of fan engagement and direct-to-consumer for Europe and the Middle East, George Ivazoglu, as well as Formula E's chief media officer, Artie DeBass, and here are their thoughts.
Is it more important to deliver a uniform experience so that you can refine it as much as possible, or to tailor it as much as possible to the individual?
It really depends. First of all, I mean, the NBA and I'm sure many other leagues and businesses have a very high set of standards. So from that perspective, consistency is important because we're never going to go below those standards, right? And then tailoring things that we launch for the first time, maybe not yet. It's more important to gather that data and let them run for a couple of rounds before we start identifying the attributes that drive more interest, more engagement, and the ones that need to be re-engineered. But reinventing is part of our culture, and we know that in the digital direct-to-consumer world, it's all about personalization. So if I'm thinking about that part of our business, it's super important.
Artie, I'm interested to hear your thoughts as a great innovator. Is it more important to deliver that uniform experience, refine it as much as possible, or to tailor each individual's experience?
I mean, I think the consistency of brand and what you're trying to convey as a messaging is important, right? And then you tailor it based on, you localize it or personalize it based on, what the fan is. But the consistency is important because ultimately people get attracted to your brand and your narrative, and I think to keep that consistent is important. But I mean, it's a similar thing, like you have personalized journeys, you need more information on your fans, and those personalized journeys should not only stop at digital, even when they come to your venues, for example, using the apps or whatever, like that should continue, Even we, usually in sport, it started with the hospitality guest knowing what the preferences are, you have it on flights, but really need to transfer it down to the fan, when they come and attend, when they're on your app, what experience are they getting? So personalization is really critical because you feel like you're valued and you're getting something delivered to you as a personal thing. But the brand consistency and the narrative of why you exist as a sport and what you're trying to convey is really important layer at the bottom.
Some expert input there from two of the sports industry's most innovative rights holders. And we'll be joined shortly by another, the CEO of DFL Digital Sports and Executive Vice President of Digital Innovations at DFL Group, Andreas Hayden. In his role, Andreas has been championing a digital revolution at the DFL. That's, of course, the Deutsche Fußball-Liga. And will be walking us through what that journey has looked like.
But just before we do that, let us pause for a moment to tell you about something very exciting happening right here in London later in the year. That's right, Leaders Week London is returning, and it is returning Monday the 26th through to Thursday the 29th of September. September, not October. That's the key message. So get your diary out and mark your calendar for your most important meeting of the year, slightly earlier than usual, as mentioned, but plenty to get excited about.
Definitely one to mark your calendars for, folks. Over the 4 days, Leaders Week London will offer global sport business executives an opportunity to attend an eclectic mix of forums, think tanks, breakfast events, masterclasses, studios, awards, and plenty more. We've got it all. We'll be wrapping up the week with a 2-day summit at the home of England Rugby at Twickenham Stadium, where you'll find over 1,400 of the industry's most influential movers and shakers from across world sport. and a speaker programme that'll be packed with bold perspectives and fresh ways of thinking as sport enters a new era. Personally, David, I'm looking forward to Leaders After Dark, which is, of course, our evening of celebration and networking right there at the stadium. I'm sure I'll see some of you there.
So essentially, you're looking forward to the drinks at the end.
More or less.
No, fair enough. Plenty more besides. That will definitely be one of the high points of the week. I am keen, and I have a little bit of behind-the-scenes knowledge about some of the sessions that we will be seeing on the headline stage. It's already getting quite exciting here at Leaders HQ. Plenty going on, plenty of planning. You can find out more everything you need to know about the agenda, about the speakers, about the lineup, about the week at leadersinsport.com/leadersweek. And we hope very much to have you with us in September as we bring the world of sport together.
But back to the topic at hand, and of course we're here with Leaders Live in partnership with our friends at InFrontX. Today we're looking at the ultimate matchday experience. What does it look like and how much is it worth?
Yes, it's a question we are all trying to wrap our heads around, and one with vastly different answers depending on who you are and who you ask. Please do let us know your thoughts. They're most welcome. You can leave live comments if you're watching that way at LeadersBiz on Twitter or in the comments box on LinkedIn. We also are excitingly on email, studio@leadersinsport.com. studio@leadersinsport.com if you'd like to pen some more substantial thoughts.
Indeed, very keen to hear your thoughts on this ever-changing area. But let's bring in our guest, and we're thrilled to welcome a real expert to the conversation here in Andreas Hayden, CEO of DFL Digital Sports and Executive Vice President of Digital Innovations at DFL Group. Andreas, thanks for joining and great to have you with us.
Hi, Cameron. Hi, David. Thank you for having me. Excited.
So jumping in, Andreas, with a bit of an establishing one, what is your understanding of this so-called experience that a fan or a customer looks for on the match day? What data points are you at the DFL Group using to develop this understanding?
I think data is the key to disruption. You have to follow customer insights, maybe from our premier customers, our broadcasting and OTT partners, and at the same time, our fans, the direct to consumers on social media, web, app, owned and operated platforms. For us, we don't really think about the match day itself. It's more about the match week. The attention for the weekend, we just had the Klassiker at the weekend. We build it up after the final whistle, the promotion of the next day starts. In this whole journey of the customer, of telling them where to watch it, when to watch it, how to watch it, we are preparing storylines of the story we want to tell at the weekend. So this weekend was easy. It's the two biggest clubs playing against each other, Dortmund against Bayern, or Bayern against Dortmund in that case. And we try to work together with the clubs and our broadcasters to identify relevant stories that we then pan out throughout the week. On the match day, I think it's all about tune in. So how can we help our customers fulfill their business model with creating tune in on their OTT, on their pay TV, to really give customers reasons to tune in at that time, especially when we talk about in our global distribution in the far, far east, in the Oceanas, up to the Sunday morning breakfast in LA. Why is it that it should be watched? Secondly, I think in the matchday experience itself, it's all about retention. If somebody goes in, how can we make them feel at home? How can we make them on the device of their choice, make their experience unique? How can you differentiate by channel switching? This is a Bundesliga broadcast to compare to various other leagues who also play at the weekend. We invest a lot of time into marketing, into research to create data points. What is the best way how we do the commentary? What's the best way how we cut our football program, etc. So it is a holistic view which starts on the Monday and ends with the final whistle of the match time.
Andreas, you've described a lot there, and really keen to dig into several parts of that. Firstly, in the old days, and by the old days, probably only talking 10, 20 years ago, when we talked about the ultimate match day, you would have maybe 30, 40, 50,000 fans in a stadium. You would have probably a national television audience if the game was being televised. Maybe you'd have some limited international coverage of the average Bundesliga game, for example. How how much more complicated has it all become now as the audience has become, as you say, much more scattered, different devices, different models of viewing, obviously different habits? And how does that complexity manifest itself within an organization like DFL Group?
That's an excellent question, actually. I would say for the time between the kickoff and the final whistle, not much has changed. On various devices, we offer more interactivity with second screen applications. You enrich more the customer's experience with on-screen AR and data. You give greater insights into the game. But it is live, and it's, I think, one of the last content rights in the world with sports, which gives a reason to tune in live, because that's where the highest value. I think the dramatic change has been what happens before and after this limited time slot of the 3 hours on a Saturday afternoon. The way how we produce the content, the way how we interact with clubs and players, the way how we tell the story afterwards and before, this is the biggest change for us. And I would say if you calculate the cost per minute, this is where we put the highest investment in. Because yes, we're doing HD, HDR, 4K, UHD broadcasting. This gets more expensive, but over time it gets cheaper because it is just more quality. But the ratio between how much live TV, 1,000 hours roughly per season, versus how much shoulder content or on-demand content we are creating, by ourselves or with our partners or with our broadcasters together, this has been grown by factor 100, I would say, at least over the last 5 years. The interesting part is in a sports rights league operation, you always work in cycles. So you always have something like a 4 years period with your main contracts. And during that time, you learn a lot how to work together with the individual broadcasters. Some broadcasters emphasize on everything that happens after the match because they are in a different time zone. This has to also be put into context.
Andreas, I want to zero in on your position and on your organisation specifically in this conversation, specifically looking at that journey of DFL Digital Sports, and what were the long-term goals in establishing, in many ways a separate entity, in many ways the two entities are linked, but in establishing, a different body to the DFL proper, as it were?
Excellent question. The way how the DFL is set up is quite unique. We don't depend so much on partners like other sports leagues. So we call it our glass-to-glass strategy. Our business model starts with the glass and the camera lens, and in the stadium ends with the glass of the mobile phone or the TV set in front of the customer. Every step in between, we try to control in the highest quality and the deepest volume, the biggest volume of content that we can create. In the first slice of the value chain, we got Sportcast, our TV production company for the UK market, comparable to the to Premier League Productions, but it is 100% our daughter company. So if we want to set up a new camera, change the camera concept, etc., we are in full control of it. We have the Sportec solution, which is a JV with Delta T together. Here we are in full control of all our data products. Then in the middle, we have the DFL Digital Sports, which is the content powerhouse where we produce all live content, all on-demand content, all social content, and manage all the interactivity with the fans. And then we have the Bundesliga International, which is our sales house. So a little bit like in a good with good food in a restaurant, you have to have proper ingredients, you have the proper production preparation, and you need a proper presentation. And this is we try in our unique setup. We started 12 years ago with insourcing our broadcasting. Our daughter company, Sportec, has done something like 11,000 football games, including some World Cup semifinals, etc. And roughly 10 years ago, it was identified that there is a need for a content house. And since 7 years, I'm part of the company, and we try to revolutionize the way how we interact with our fans and produce products for our broadcasting partners.
One of the things that you mentioned earlier, Andreas, which piqued my interest, was this idea of serving fans in different markets in different ways, which is fairly obvious and standard, but particularly, as you were saying, concentrating in certain markets on what happens after a game and working really closely with broadcasters for time zone reasons. And I would assume one of those markets, given the time zone, is the United States, which obviously is hot for football right now. Bundesliga has a fantastic partnership in place with ESPN Plus.
Great American players.
Exactly. So I'm just interested in terms of what the type of discussions you're having with broadcast partners about new ideas, creative ways to keep audiences, if we use the example of America, keep audiences for as long as possible, I guess, after a live game has concluded.
Yeah. American customers are in a very interesting phase right now. So we're coming from a world where media usage was disrupted, cord cutting, etc. Now we have a playback of the traditional broadcasters who now enrich their OTT products. So it's a market which is in a constant change. So there's not an easy answer. What we do with ESPN evolves over time. And actually, when we closed the contract, we didn't even know what we're going to do in years 3 and 4. But as it is a trustful relationship, in the framework of our agreement, we find new ways to execute it. So we introduced something that we use heavily in that context. It's a social media matchday feed. So it is a special service we offer as part of the licensing, where we create additional footage out of the stadium, out of the changing room, out of the locker, everywhere, generated by mobile phones, which is really raw and authentic and feels good. You can use it great on social, on TikTok, etc. It has a great credibility, and we mix that with the broadcasting product. So the conflict on the pitch can be told afterwards, or the contest on the pitch can be told afterwards with additional levels. And with these social media matchday feed, you have more and closer insights into what's happening in the 90 minutes. Why is that important? Because the big brands, the NFL, the NBAs of the world, are traditionally free TV led. So customers are educated in seeing games on nearly any device, any channel, very, very goals or any kind of results very, very fast. And so we have to somehow create content that gives context to the game, but doesn't give away the value of having the live rights. And it's a careful balancing we need to do. Also feature-wise, we're discussing features like scores on, scores off. So when you wake up Sunday morning and you open up the Bundesliga app or a partners app, do you want to see the final score of the Klassiker or not? Yeah. And stuff like that is very, very relevant for us.
So you've got the geographical split, and there's a very different match day experience, not least because people will be obviously watching at different times of the day and night. But you've also got, I think, a really interesting split between existing, maybe slightly older fans, traditional fans, I guess particularly in Germany, where there is a really strong traditional fan base and lots of historic conventions around the clubs and the way that the league is structured. And you've got a new wave of fans that you're hoping to attract and engage and introduce, possibly in your home market, but more likely further afield in international markets. What does it look like, and what does the balancing act look like in terms of doing new stuff that works for the traditional audience and is accepted by them, but also does what you need it to do for the new audience?
Yeah, I think it's a pain point for the whole industry right now, because we are in this transition. If we would only cater to the paying audience, the family father who pays the subscription that the son also uses on their devices, then we would do something which failed in fashion. If you build clothes for seniors, no senior is going to buy it. You always have to go a little bit younger. So overall, is our first approach. We want to be on any platform that we are on. We try to be 10-20% in the age average, under the age average at least. So we always try to be one depending on the platform, 5 to 10 years younger than the audience itself. So this helps us to keep the content fresh, be on our toes, see what's working and not, because there's like a trickle-down effect. If the kids love it and the parents love it, the grandparents at some stage will be. We will all see our grandparents on TikTok in 10 years, like we've seen them on Facebook.
Just on that quickly, does that mean from a recruitment standpoint, as you're building your team out, does that mean you are trying to sort of recruit younger and younger and make sure you've got people within your organization that really know these platforms natively?
Definitely. Also in the freelancers we work together. But the balancing act is the traditional TV player who pays the billions, they need to be taken serious and catered to like traditional TV has to be over the years. So you have to rely on watching at Sky UK the Bundesliga in a fashion that you're used to, and no crazy slime action like Nickelodeon, etc., but real proper football. But the world around it, we try to be younger, fresher, more brave. The good thing is, based on our rights metrics, for example, our YouTube channel is geo-blocked in Germany. You can't watch anything on YouTube. Which gives us a lot of freedom not to get in conflict with our traditional fans, if you see what I'm saying there. So we experiment a lot there around new content format, cartoons. Like 5 years ago, we did the first web cartoons. We tried with 9 to 16 vertical video experiments, etc., to really understand how do future target groups tick. Will they evolve over time in traditional Silver Surfers, or will they drag along like a wave of change that at the end, in 5 to 10 years, will be in also traditional TV?
Now, we're only now just seeing the return of fans filling the grounds. I think I saw 2 or 3 weeks ago it was that Dortmund had their first game since before the pandemic, when they were able to fill their stadium. And it's a question we hear a lot, it's a question we ask a lot about how people's roles in putting those events change over the course of the last 2 years. I'm really interested to hear from the digital side, from your perspective, how delivering the matchday experience has changed. How much of that was business as usual? How much of that was completely flipping the script? Or was there a fine balance in between?
I would say it was easy and difficult at the same time. It was easy because all the heavy lifting of moving to the cloud, especially in digital and more also in broadcast, moving to the cloud, we finalized that in 2019. So for me, sending my digital team home in February, March 2020 wasn't really different in the efficiency that we had than in the time before, because we're already cloud native and we had agile workflows, etc. It was difficult at the time because we had a responsibility for our employees and freelancers to keep them safe, to create working environments, especially in OB vans, especially in the cutting rooms, etc., where we still have to go into buses or into rooms to do the editing and find creative ways how to deliver the same quality. Our approach, or let's say our goal, was always, if you compare a recording of 2020, of 21 to 2019, you should not see any difference in quality. And I think, at least from the feedback we got from our broadcasters, we delivered it. It was very costly because we needed to create new workflows. For example, I think I had to book 2 editing suites. In the one suite, the editor we took him with a camera to the cutting room, and there was via Teams, and then there was a cutter, and they worked together, even though they were separated. So we even introduced hybrid workflows while they were in the same building, but in 2 different rooms. So it's definitely a cost factor, but I think in being a nearly 60-year-old league, I think, and being one of the well-known brand in Germany, we have a responsibility. We have a responsibility to our fans to deliver a product in tough times like during COVID, where your world is falling apart, and at least, even though the stadiums are empty, at least you can still cheer for your home team and fight against your opponents, etc. So this is something where we opened up our archive. We launched a lot of broadcasting products, which helped our broadcasters to tell more content. It was difficult on the on the level of production, because I had to scale down a lot of pilots, a lot of proof of concepts that we planned to do in the stadium. So our 5G rollout that we started 2019 with the 5G app, we couldn't send people or agencies into the stadium because of our hygiene concept. But the highest priority was always keep the ball rolling, deliver the product and innovation, and innovate in areas where you don't have to be present in the stadium. So you can only imagine how many people are now in the stadium testing new stuff while there are spectators on various levels, from fan engagement to 5G to new broadcasting measures, creating data points, doing interviews, and learning how has the customer behavior changed over the 2 years of this pandemic.
I'd be remiss, Andreas, if I didn't ask you a little bit about sports innovation, not least because I'm personally fascinated. The more I read about it, the more I want to know. Could you explain briefly what that trade fair is and what the purpose is, and also what the thinking behind developing and launching a league-affiliated trade fair was?
Yes. So the we're coming. Innovation is in our DNA. Since 12 years, 14 years. It is part of, after the crash of our main, of the Kirch Group, some of the oldest remember, we had to rethink how a league is operated. Christian Seifert came in and we went on the path of innovation. And we have been doing innovation games where every 2 years, every 3 years throughout, and tested new technology. But we felt that only doing a game where we invite people to come in, or the suppliers to come in, test their technology, it is limited. It is limited in our ability to talk about it, to go into discussion with our broadcasters. And there is a lack in the event space, I would call it. The lack is, you go to events, you go to your events or your competitors' events, they all happen in a stadium, and that's beautiful. It's a beautiful setting. But I always look at the pitch, and the pitch is empty. And for us, to have 3 innovation games with 6 teams from Bundesliga clubs, showing the latest technology. Everybody who is exhibiting there has full access to data, to video, to audio, to chip, to sensors, whatever. And based on these inputs, they can showcase their technology. Because on the other hand, you have the NAB and the IBC, where the latest broadcasting and other technology is shown, but there is no live game. So it's a very unique setup where you have a live game happening, you have a trade fair of showing technology, and on top of that, now since this year, we have a conference with speakers from all around the world, from Sky to AWS, to LA Rams, on the various areas, Delta Trade, on the various areas of our business.
Good stuff. We will keep an eye out for that, Andreas. We have people watching, and we have people asking questions. I'm pleased to say. So here is one. Juan Iraola is watching on LinkedIn and has asked the Metaverse Web3 question, which is, how do you think Web3 is going to affect or change the matchday experience? Will it be a new way in terms of things being immersive and interactive? Big question.
Awesome question. I think if the Metaverse will be successful, will be highly dependent, I think, on 3 factors. On the one hand side, you need hooks into the real world, and you need content that is really relevant for the fans, the customers. For sure, you can create new content. 10 years ago, nobody knew Fortnite, but a game was created. But in an open world concept, in a persistent 3D world, you need some kind of hooks that give you a home and attract you to use it. Secondly, I don't think that the one-to-one representation of what's happening on the pitch in the metaverse is satisfying the need and the interest of the people going into the metaverse. You're coming from a world of escapism. You want to leave the real world, so you don't want to see the real world in the virtual world. So we need to find ways to create a compelling product. And thirdly, it's all about accessibility. And whether the metaverse, whatever it's going to be on something that you strap to your head, or it will be an intermediary platform like a web browser still, but they're in the 3D world. We all remember Second Life from 15 years ago. I think this is about, we will see how technology is evolving there, but I'm pretty sure that we as Bundesliga will play a role in this play.
Absolutely. Thinking about the future, obviously Web3 and the Metaverse will be high on your priority list and stuff that you're thinking about. The future of the matchday experience, in very broad terms, do you see it as a case of the in-stadium experience becoming more like a broadcast? Or do you see the broadcast side of a matchday experience becoming more like the in-venue experience? Where's your thinking at the moment about where the sweet spot is, using all the technology, using all the innovative stuff, the innovative products that you're developing for both the fan in the stadium and the fan watching on whatever device?
Yeah, I think so. A disclaimer: I'm a season card holder at Cologne, but neutral for the league. But when I'm in my stadium and in my seat and I watch the game and it's a halftime break, maybe I get one beer, but I don't get a second beer because I'm afraid to miss the kickoff. So is there a way to create more convenience in the whole beverage part, to automate content, not automate processes to get faster to shorter lines to the toilet, shorter lines to the beer, shorter lines to the bratwurst, and make it more experience in the physical part, maybe in the media part. I really would love to have the 1 minute replay 5G button. I open up the Bundesliga app, I'll click on a button and see the last minute in 5G in real time, so I can watch what's happening. I think in the medialization, there are some really untapped opportunities around the referee. I really love going to Twickenham and buying the little radio and hearing to the referee talking. This is something we haven't untapped yet. We're keeping the powder dry there. I believe there is lots of happening. And on the sensor part, to really understand how, so can I measure the heart rate? Can I measure the excitement level of a player from the outside? And can I create a media product out of this? Is also something where these two worlds are coming together. The mobile device or the watch or the AR glasses, they're going to give you more context to the game, and at the end you understand the game better. And I think this is the ultimate driver. So convenience, new content services, and accessibility from data. This is, I think, relevant for both worlds, in stadium and broadcasting.
Excellent. I feel like we've only scratched the surface of this topic, Andreas, but we've run out of time. And thank you so much for your expert contribution and for guiding us through what you're doing. And we look forward to seeing you soon, either at your event or perhaps at our event. So good to see you, Andreas. Thanks ever so much.
Good to see you. Thank you very much.
Andreas Hayden there, CEO of DFL Digital Sports and Executive Vice President of Digital Innovations at DFL Group. Great to have him on.
Great to have him on indeed. And just before we wrap up the show, a quick mention that nominations for the Leaders Sports Awards are now open for the Leaders Under 40 and Company categories. And you have just 1 month left to nominate.
That is right, Cam. Each year we literally scour the global sports industry to award best-in-class work and showcase the best individuals. And this year is no different. What's more, 2022 will see us return to the world-renowned Natural History Museum right here in London to kick off Leaders Week in style with what they're all calling a glittering celebration.
A glittering celebration full of glittering attendees. You'll be in great company there with previous winners including the likes of Netflix, Formula One, NBA, MasterCard and many more. Find out everything you need to know, and especially which category is right for you, at www.leadersinsport.com/LSA.
That's Leaders Live. That's the ultimate matchday experience. Thank you for your thoughts, thank you for your questions, and thank you for tuning in. Leaders Live back with a bit of luck soon. Bye-bye for now.